tout. Dis, tu peux lui dire qu'il y a un problème avec le micro, ça fonctionne pas. Oh, wow. Ouh. Tu veux que tu le dises parce que... Wow. Il est là, hein. On y va? Bonsoir à tous. Ben voilà, nous revoilà partis avec une nouvelle rencontre débat avec un autre invité de marque. Ce soir, c'est un Américain hollandais ou bien alors un Hollandais américain, c'est comme vous voulez. Figurez-vous qu'il est sorti de l'université de Leiden avec une licence en mathématiques et en physique. Il est entré à la Marine royale de Hollande où il a réalisé ses premiers films, des documentaires. Et enfin, il est très vite passé outre-Atlantique après avoir été remarqué avec des films tels que De Vierdemen ou Turkish Delight. Et là, il nous a fait des films comme Dans le désordre, un tiercé dans le désordre, c'est Robocop, Total Recall, Showgirls, le formidable Starship Troopers et enfin Hollow Man en septembre 2000 qui est passé ici. Alors comme d'habitude, Thierry et moi-même, on va introduire le débat. On va lui poser quelques questions, mais après, si vous le permettez, ce sera à vous de poser les questions, de prendre le micro et d'en profiter. Voilà, c'est à toi Thierry.
Goedenavond, welkom bij deze ontmoeting met Paul Verhoeven. Ik denk dat we de introductie kort kunnen houden, want dat jullie allemaal wel bekend zullen zijn met zijn werk. De lijst is oneindig van meesterwerken, we zullen zeggen Total Recall, Robocop, Starship Troopers, Hollow Man. Het houdt niet op, ik vraag een hartelijk applaus voor Paul Verhoeven.
Thank you.
We gaan het in het Engels doen. Ik denk dat het voor iedereen wel zal lukken. Maybe a first question. Your films are always filled with satire, black humor, controversial violence and sex scenes. Has there ever been a producer who said, no, this is too much, I won't do it?
No, not really. But it's clear that in the last movie I did, Hollow Man, which was a studio production really, a script that was developed by Columbia, Sony, and I think they really expected a certain kind of movie. So I think at the very end when the movie was shot and done, there was a lot of discussion basically what they wanted in the movie or not. So I think it's the only movie really that I changed the decoupage because I felt that it was their movie and not mine.
So, Mr. Verhoeven, my first question will be maybe funny, I don't know. I noticed something, in fact we noticed something. The period between two films is of 2 years and then of 3 years and then of 2 years and then of 3 years. For example, Flesh and Blood in 85, Robocop in 87, Total Recall in 90, Basic Instinct in 92, Showgirls in 95, Starship Trooper in 97, and finally Hollow Man in year 2000. So I know that you graduated in mathematics and physics. So is it done on purpose or is it done by pure chance?
Yes, I don't think there is anything to understand there. That's really not perhaps coincidence because it has a lot to do with preparation for a movie or getting the good script, waiting till you get a chance to make the movie because people are doubting if it should be made and all that kind of circumstances. I don't think there is anything. In general, it's 2.5 years, which is pretty consistent, you know. And if it's 2 years or 3 years, I don't think that makes much difference.
There is no an occult code.
Unfortunately, I cannot
no
discover
secret.
any mathematical formulae there. No.
No? Okay. Doesn't matter.
Your American movies often have revolutionary special effects in them. Do you find it hard working with blue screen all the time, green screen all the time, or you prefer it?
I think you should really realize that a movie like Hollow Man has no green screen at all. I mean, Kevin Bacon was the green screen. He was basically putting green clothes or blue or black and basically performed all the scenes, and then later we erased him from the shot and replaced him by, let's say, for example, a muscular man or a waterman or whatever. But on the set we can just shoot it as it was. I mean, there is no, in none of the movies I have really worked with blue screen or green screen or anything like that. Perhaps for a couple of shots, but that's it. I think it's very boring to do that, so I try to find other ways to shoot it.
Kevin Bacon probably thought he had about 5 days work on the movie, but he was there every day.
Well, I don't think he thought he had 5 days of work. I thought he had about 50 or 60 days, but it was about 120, yes. Yeah, I think he thought that a lot of these shots could be done without him, and we decided that he had to be in every shot and that we would use his performance to copy the digital performance. I mean, in a lot of the scenes, of course, it's a digital clone of Kevin Bacon's character nearly, but at least from his way of behaving, acting, moving, killing, and grabbing the girls.
Mr. Verhoeven, you starting by directing documentaries for the Navy. So, I noticed some of your personal quotes in which you said, I like to carefully examine human sexuality. It has to be realistic, really like documentaries. Reality is important to me when I do fiction. It is related to my own life, my Dutch background. So, can you tell us more about this realistic way when you
Well,
make films?
I think I try to express when I do sex scenes that I just portray them like I remember them with other girls myself.
When you made film like Starship Trooper,
Well, that's another situation. That's not so sexual, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think that it's very important for you to this realistic way. So when you made film like RoboCop, Total Recall, how does it work in your mind?
I mean, I prepare that very well in storyboards normally. If it's not sex scenes, in sex scenes I prepare very well too, but I base them on my personal experience. Of course, Starship Troopers, I can relate certain scenes to what I did when I was an officer in the Navy, but of course it's, for the rest it's fantasy, but it's a fantasy that is as close to what I think that the battle scenes in Normandy were when the Allies tried to land in Europe. I think a lot of the shots are very, very similar to the documentary shots that you can see of D-Day. And on top of that, for all the media breaks, I copied a lot of shots of the films of Leni Riefenstahl to give it a really nice utopian fascist outlook.
Which not everybody got in the States especially.
By now it seems to be more clear.
Some of your movies like RoboCop and Starship Troopers were made into TV shows, children TV shows. Doesn't that bother you to see the source material change to something more tame, more...
No, I see that as an homage.
Maybe first we can see now if there are any questions in the public before we go any further here. Okay.
To you, Mr. Verhoeven, what's the difference? for you, Mr. Verhoeven, what's the difference in working in the States and working in Europe?
Well, more money. It's mostly a difference in money, which translates to a certain degree in having much more specialists on the set than you would get in Europe. So you're better protected, you have more help, you don't have to solve all your problems yourself, because there is, for every problem in the United States film industry, there is a special person that can solve your problem. While when you're working in Holland, for example, you have to do a lot of that stuff yourself. You're partially your own, let's say, prop man, production designer, or whatever. In the United States, you get 300, 400, 500 people around you that solve your problems. Now, of course, that brings the cost of the movie to a much higher level. But the two of them are very much connected as should be in a nice capitalist society.
And did you still feel in some way European?
By what?
Did you feel still European in some way?
Well, I try to feel American in the United States, otherwise it would be basically very dangerous to make movies, because people wouldn't understand you there. But I don't think I can deny my European roots. And I don't think that many people would have done movies like, or use explicit sex like I did in Basic Instinct or perhaps in Showgirls. A lot of American directors would back away from that and wouldn't show these details that I showed.
C'est une autre question? No?
Okay. Mr. Verhoeven, for me, I mean, in my opinion, there is in your films a political message, a commitment against violence, against all kind of power. So how do you manage to find the money to make a film that criticizes the basic values of American society?
By making sure that when we prepare the movie, that nobody is aware of what I'm doing. When, of course, in retrospect it becomes clear, so it gets more and more difficult because studios and producers get more and more suspicious about my real intent.
Oké, we hebben een vraag.
So I have to go back to Europe, I think. I said I have to go back to Europe, I think.
Ja, we hebben hier een vraag uit het publiek.
Meneer Verhoeven, hoe lang werkt u nu al in Amerika in het eerste? Hoe lang werkt u nu al in Amerika in het eerste? En in het tweede?
I left Holland in the fall of '85. So it's about 16 years that I live in the United States now.
En Total Recall bijvoorbeeld, dat is een 100% Amerikaanse film. Maar is er nog Europese invloed in uw manier te filmen?
I suppose that's it's probably that the public or the audience can discover that better than I, because I don't know exactly how I mix these two cultures together in any way. As I explained before, I think I'm probably, especially in sexual matters, a bit more explicit than American directors would generally be. And for the rest, I always loved American movies, and studied them very thoroughly. So, for example, in Basic Instinct, you can see an enormous amount of influence of Alfred Hitchcock. So I would nearly say that it's a very American movie, although the explicitness of certain scenes is probably European. But the editing and the ideas are nearly synonymous in the way that Alfred Hitchcock did his movies, his American movies I'm talking about mostly.
A question that probably a lot of people want to know an answer to. There are rumors for years now that you would be doing another film with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Crusades movie.
Unfortunately, at this moment in time, the script is owned by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I don't think that there is any intent of anybody at this time to make that movie, which would cost probably around $250 million, and I don't think that there are many producers in the United States that would like to spend that much money, even if they trust Arnold or me, or both.
Maybe if Gladiator wins a lot of Oscars, they want to do another historical epic.
perhaps, I realized that The Gladiator was a very economic movie. It looked pretty big, but it's all shot in a very simple style, and it's one big set that is partially digital. And the Crusades, of course, is much more complicated because it's whole armies going over the mountains, through the snow and whatever, with ships. And I mean, the production cost of it's a non-economic movie, I would say. And Gladiator was very written in a very, let's say, economic style.
I read that you are also an actor in a TV film in '69 and in the last film of Kurosawa in '99. So,
I was an actor?
yeah,
Ooh.
in the film of Kurosawa and in the TV film Die Ratten
Oh, well, there was just a documentary about Kurosawa.
and Die Ratten, the TV film.
No, The Last Emperor?
No, the TV film Die Ratten.
No, I have never done any acting in my life. I hate acting.
Ah, but there is a problem in the purpose.
Somebody
in the web.
must have made a mistake because I never did do
Okay.
any acting in any movie of myself or anybody else.
But my question is, have you a technique to direct the actors?
Do I?
Have you a technique to direct the actors?
Well, I never learned how to direct actors, and basically I go for my intuition, and I learned it by just doing it, and I don't know even if I do it very well, because sometimes the actors get very upset, so they feel that I'm just proposing too many things that they want to invent themselves, and I direct them through. Sometimes they feel that I direct them too strongly and push them too much towards my ideas about the part than their ideas. So there are certain conflicts there on the set.
And,
That's okay, that's good, it makes it creative and hopefully better.
Another question people would like to get an answer to: why did you refuse to do Basic Instinct 2?
Because I felt that the script was not ready. Or put it in different words, I felt that the script was too similar to the original. And I thought it would be disappointing to the audience if I would do something that would not at least be as strong, but certainly different than the first one. And I asked the producers to delay the shooting of the movie with half a year so I could work on the script. Because there is a strike threatening in the United States, people are probably going, the writers and the actors are going on strike in 1 or 2 months. And the producer wanted to shoot the movie before the strike, so starting in March. And I decided that I could not get the script right in that short amount of time, so I told them that I couldn't do it.
des questions dans la salle?
Vragen uit het publiek?
Des
Niemand?
questions, c'est le moment.
Okay, then another question. In Holland, you primarily made dramas like Spetter, Soldaat van Oranje, and of course Turks Fruit. Was that purely an economical choice that you're now doing the more sci-fi oriented things, or would you like to do something like Spetters in America?
Not necessarily, because I did that, isn't it? I mean, I chose to do a lot of science fiction because I felt insecure about my knowledge of the American life, American culture, and with science fiction they couldn't check me out so well. So to do something which was futuristic protected me better than to do something very American. And it took me about 10 years to feel strong enough to do something more American, but by then I was typecast as a science fiction director, so it was difficult to get out of that.
And especially as science fiction director of classical material, we have Heinlein, Philip K. Dick. Don't modern authors mean anything to you? Don't you find anything interesting in their work, like a William Gibson, for instance?
I try to, you know, strangely enough, I'm not really too much of a science fiction fan in the first place. I have a hard time to read science fiction novels. I think they're extremely boring and very technical, and I cannot stand them. But I really like comic books that are science fiction, or films that are science fiction, that are written directly for film. So for me, it's not really looking at science fiction novels to find my inspiration. In all honesty, and I don't say that too many times because it sounds so silly, I have never read Starship Troopers, the book, at all.
Me neither.
I noticed that Starship Trooper is dedicated to 2 men, Gon Garrity and Tom O'Haran.
That was because these were 2 people that worked in the second unit, and they went for a couple of days. There was a couple of free days, and so they had a party in the mountains, and when they came back there was a terrible accident and they died.
Maybe a question about your first American international film, Flesh and Blood. Are you happy with that movie? And but like everybody hopes, will there be a definite version on DVD maybe coming out?
I always felt that I had to do another medieval movie to make my point, because I felt that I was, when I did the movie, pretty much overwhelmed by the problems of shooting in English and shooting with American actors, and that I didn't know how to resist, let's say, all the corrections that the studio wanted to bring in to make it better. I felt that the movie deviated very much from the original ideas. And if you realize that the original story was about two men that were friends and became enemies, and you see the ultimate result, which is much more of a triangle or something like that, you know that there was enormous pressure of the studio to make it American, pleasant, and not too dark. The original script was much darker, in fact. And I think we gave in because we didn't know exactly what American studios, how dangerous they can be. So I think there's still a lot of people that like the movie, and there are certainly a lot of elements that I like. I felt that the storyline was heavily corrupted by the discussion with the studio.
Des questions dans la salle?
Nog vragen in
1,
het
2,
publiek?
3.
Nee?
Non?
Oké.
Des questions?
Vendu. Autre question là.
Ok.
You made 2 movies based on a script by Joe Estra's Basic Instinct and Showgirls. Do you think you'll ever work with him again? Do you still have contact with
Well,
him?
you know, he's a fucking liar and a very bad guy, so I'm not so sure that I would like to work with him again.
Okay, that's clear.
I have a question about the editing. Is it a step very important for you?
Of course, yeah, the editing
How-
is
how
part
do
of
you
my
work?
style, I would say. And again, basically, I refer to Alfred Hitchcock, who used editing in the most clever way.
Can you give us an example with, I don't know, Total Recall, for example?
Of
How
what?
did you, how
I
did you
would,
work?
I mean, if you look at the scenes in Basic Instinct, and for example, there are scenes where James Stewart walks to a house where Kim Novak is hiding, and I think the scene is with a church in the background. That scene is nearly verbatim copied in Basic Instinct. This scene from Vertigo. It's a scene from Vertigo. If you look at the background of Gene Triplethorne's house in Basic Instinct, you see these people dancing in the background in the other house. That is taken from Rear Window. So there is a lot of that kind of similarities. I think that I copied or was influenced by or stole or remembered, whatever.
Or rework. Plus it was set in San Francisco, just like Vertigo.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to do it like Hitchcock, but I used another bridge and I used another road, but I stayed very close, yes.
Oké, des questions dans le public? Faut pas être timide. Vragen in het publiek?
Allez.
Iemand?
C'est maintenant que vous avez Paul Verhoeven
Non.
devant vous, il faut y aller.
Oké dan.
Bon.
That's it?
Ik denk dat we het hier zullen bij laten. Ja, ik denk dat er nu een signeersessie volgt, dus ik vraag alleen nog een hartelijk applaus voor meneer Paul Verhoeven.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I was hopefully helpful.